Amit Khurana, who heads our program on food sustainability, Rajeshwari Sinha, as well as Deepak Bhati, both colleagues who work passionately on the issue of antimicrobial resistance. Today is also a very important week. This is a very important week for the world. This is the week in which the world marks what is called the World Antimicrobial Awareness Week. And the reason for this is very important is that the plain fact of the matter is that we are looking at what clearly is a silent pandemic. We know that if the medicines, which are life-saving medicines in our world for our generation and for future generations for whom we hold it in trust, if those medicines stop working because they become resistant to bacteria, then we are in trouble. And that clearly is something that is been worrying many parts, many governments, has been on the top of the agenda of the United Nations. And that is why the world has decided that every year we must come together to bring about the connections between this pandemic and the life around us. For us at CSE, we are an environmental group. And I'm often asked, what are you doing in AMR? And for us, the issue has always been that it's like another contaminant in our food system, in our environment. We started work, as you know, many of you know, in the work of pesticide contamination. For us, and when we tested poultry some years ago and we found antibiotics in it, for us, that was a matter of deep concern. We found it also in the honey that we tested many years ago. And it was very clear to us, therefore, that we needed to understand the pathways for contamination which were coming from our food, which was bad for the environment, but also bad for our health. We also needed to understand the environmental linkages to AMR. What is the waste that comes out of our poultry farms? What is the waste that comes out of our dairy farms? What does that do in terms of contaminating the land and the water? What is the waste that comes out of farmer industry? But as we worked on it, and CSE has now worked on it for some years, we have also been understanding that we have been bringing forward that we need a different approach to AMR in our world, but also, frankly, in the entire world. We need to talk about how we can build on preventing the need for antimicrobials to be used, whether it is in the food system or the human health system. In the human health system, we know that the linkage, one of the most powerful linkages, is about the water that children drink, that households drink, or the dirty water that is available, or the lack of sanitation, which leads to the need for antibiotics to be given. There are many other environmental connections, but in the food, it is very clear that if you look at it from a food systems approach, then you're really looking at how do you reduce the use of antimicrobials in the food system. And for us, it becomes even more urgent because for us, the waste that comes out of our food system is not waste, it's manure. So if the poultry farm uses antimicrobials and the waste that comes out of it cannot be used because it is contaminated, you really are creating a crisis of soil fertility. It's the same thing with dairy. So that is really where the question of what can we do and how can we really look at the use of antimicrobials, antibiotics in the food system, and how can this be reduced? Now, in all our conversations over the years, one of the things that has always been brought up is that this reduction is not possible because farmers need to use antibiotics, antimicrobials in the food system, particularly for animal health. And if they do not give this, then it impacts their livelihoods. So essentially being brought forward as a livelihood issue, as an economic issue, that if you don't treat the animal, it's going to lead to a loss of livelihood for the farmer. Now, that's clearly not what we need to work on. We do not want that to happen. So the question has been, what should be the approach? So the one clear approach that has come out is, can you reduce the use of antimicrobials in what is called preventive use? That you don't, you put in more effort into how you manufacture your food, into your food system, so that your animals do not live in such unhygienic conditions or do not need the use of antimicrobials as a preventive cover, that we are giving it to the animals just to make sure nothing goes wrong. But then there's still a question about, what do you do when there is a disease? How do you treat it? And this is really where today's webinar presents to you a very interesting approach, a new idea, which, not a new idea, an old idea, but an idea which we can bring to you with some confidence today, has gone through a whole series of work, validation, as well as practice. And I think that's what makes this approach of using ethnomedicine, something that, you know, all of us in India have used for generations when we've had to treat our own, for treatments at home, but the coming together of science and practitioners is what makes this very exciting for us. Because otherwise these ideas of using ethnomedicine become dismissed as anecdotal. Yes, it's very nice, but where is the data? And that's where the use of science comes in. Now, science also has to be practiced, because if it is not practiced and not practiced at the scale that is needed, then it becomes a great idea, but it gets lost. And so what we will present today is, I think, a very interesting approach, which could indeed become a solution, not a full solution. There are no full solution, absolute solutions in the world, but it is an approach, it is a solution moving forward. And it's the one thing that we can present to say that there are options. You don't have to only think of antimicrobial use in crop and food producing animals, because there are no options. And that, I think, is what is exciting for us to present to you at this very important week, where the world is marking the need for us to be aware of this silent pandemic. So I'm going to ask my colleague Rajeshwari, who along with her colleague Deepak and Amit have worked together to put together research, which is actually from the people who are on my screen and who have been kind enough to share their research with us and to give us the time to explain to us what is happening. So very grateful, and I will come and introduce each one of them as I ask them to speak. Rajeshwari, can I now ask you for your presentation?
Thank you, Sunita ji. I will share my screen. It's visible, right?
Yes, it's visible. Can you make it full screen, please, Rajeshwari?
Yes.
Yes, perfect.
So good evening, everyone. I am Rajeshwari, and I work here at the Sustainable Food Systems team at CSE. And
Rajeshwari, a little louder. You'll need to be a little louder.
Okay. I am Rajeshwari, and I work here at the Sustainable Food Systems team at CSE. And today I'm making this presentation on behalf of the team that has worked on understanding ethnoveterinary medicine practices as potential alternative approaches to the use of antibiotics in the dairy sector. And we are really thankful to the lead organizations who supported us in doing this work. Just to set a small background, which I think Sunita ji has already mentioned, is India, as we know, is one of the largest producers of milk in the world, and it contributes to almost 23% of the global milk production as of now. And I think in 2021, it produced almost 210 million tons of milk. The consumption and sales structure of this milk produced involves that almost 46% of the milk produced is consumed at the producer level or sold to non-producers. And the remaining 54% is available for sale to the organized milk sector and includes the unorganized players. And within the organized sector comes the milk cooperatives and the producer companies and the private players who are contributing to a part of this milk available for sale to consumers. Today's presentation largely revolves around milk cooperatives and producer companies, and it's a three-tiered structure in the country, beginning at the district cooperative society at the village level, which are all affiliated to milk unions at the district level, and then all the milk unions further affiliate to milk federations at the state level, and in India we have different milk federations belonging to different states. Having said this, our previous assessments, our previous research has indicated the use of high-end antibiotics in the dairy sector, including those which are quite critically important for use in humans. And we found that these antibiotics were being used in the sector not just for treatment of diseases, but also for keeping away diseases, which is prevention as well as control. About 21 different types of critically important antimicrobials we saw were being used on the ground, and they belonged to very important classes, including highest priority critically important antimicrobials like the third and fourth generation cephalosporins, the fluoroquinolones, penicillins, aminoglycosides, and the like. There have been various studies which have also documented how presence of drug residues in milk, the passage of drug residues, unmetabolized drug residues in milk could be a problem, and how implications it can have on AMR. So what is the solution? The solution, I'm not able to change my slides. Yeah. The solution is either you provide alternatives to farmers so that they stop using antibiotics, but then there lies a big gap when it comes to the use and the spread of information around alternatives. There has been limited success around it because, one, it has not gained much momentum, and second, the evidences on its efficacy and scale up have also been limited from the ground. Ethnoveterinary medicines, which are traditional and herbal practices, are medicines which are gaining some traction over the last couple of years from the Indian dairy sector, and CSE has been tracking how this medicine is gaining importance. Looking at this, we try to deep dive and further understand the effectiveness and the challenges and possibilities involved in scaling up the ethnomedicine use practice, which was already being implemented here in India as a large program. So I am going to present our assessment of the National Dairy Development Board's project on ethnoveterinary medicines called as the Mastitis Control Popularization Project, which has been implemented with technical support from the Transdisciplinary University in Karnataka. And we have stakeholders today with us, joining us in the webinar to speak on it as well. So the program began in 2014 with the larger mandate of helping farmers who were suffering losses due to the mastitis infection. Before I deep dive into this project, mastitis, very briefly, is a common bacterial infection which causes an inflammation in the mammary gland of the dairy animal. And because it can be caused by multiple organisms, not just bacteria, it can have a fungal source or a viral source. It's very difficult to have a preventive vaccine against it. And that's the problem which calls for use of high-end antibiotics, like critically important ones, to tackle this disease. And this infection can be predisposed due to unhygienic farm conditions as well, or due to milking conditions, or teat injuries, or trauma. Going back, when this project was initiated in 2014, the National Dairy Development Board launched it at one of its milk unions, which is the Sabarkantha Milk Union, also popularly known as the Sabar Dairy, and it was covering 50 district cooperative societies to begin with. And it aimed at highlighting the importance of addressing subclinical mastitis, which is another type of mastitis that is not easily detectable, and it usually is manifested through just reduction in the milk produce and not easily as detectable as mastitis, and it could lead to quite economic and health losses. So when this was done in 2014, it started by treating by diagnosis using California mastitis test kits, and then by treating with trisodium citrate. Over a period of 2 years, the NDDB considered roping in Transdisciplinary University, TDU, from Karnataka, which was already working in parallel on ethnoveterinary medicines. And the idea was to look at how these can be used in order to make the approach of treating mastitis more farmer-friendly and more cost-friendly. So NTDB, the Transdisciplinary University and Sabar Dairy came together and conducted a trial, and it was a success. It was observed. So going forward, this trial was taken forward, and Sabar Dairy considered to take this forward. Currently, which began with just 50 dairy cooperative societies, this project spans 8 states and 16 milk union and producer companies. And within the states, we see that there is quite spread in all parts of the country: Andhra Pradesh, Assam, Gujarat, Karnataka, Kerala, Maharashtra, Punjab. So different milk unions and producer companies are now working with the NDDB to implement this project. What began with mastitis saw success, and then there was demand from the ground that if ethnovet medicines can be such a success, it was able to cure animals, it was able to save farmers cost and save farmers time, and a lot of advantage it was having. There was demand from the ground. Why not expand it and see what the knowledge has for other diseases as well? So the mastitis control popularization project further moved beyond mastitis, and currently it is addressing 29 diseases or conditions. The table that you see basically tabulates almost all the diseases that the project now covers being treated with the EVM approach. And because of this, a new name for the project is being considered, which is disease control through alternative methods. Another aspect which gradually evolved as the MCPP also gained momentum and moved forward is that homemade ethnovet preparations which were being made at home. So the basic USP of ethnovet products was you can make them at home. They are something which you can use home-based ingredients, and they were so effective. And gradually this moved from homemade preparations to making packaged EVM products. So the picture that we are trying to show here is how something which was being made by home has now moved to a more planned and structured approach, that even milk unions now have their own manufacturing plants and are coming out with packaged small formulation EVM formulation packages that we have put pictures of two such formulations used in mastitis. It is interesting to understand why this shift happened. One is because there was success, but there was need for more and more EVM products. So to ensure uninterrupted supply, a packaged source was considered more beneficial. At the same time, it was not always possible for farmers to have access to the raw materials that were required. I will just want to highlight that the product being prepared here is something for mastitis, which involves turmeric, which involves lime and aloe vera, and they are mixed in a base and applied on the animal for treatment of mastitis. And farmers also at times did not want to invest so much time and effort in making these products at home. So gradually the idea has moved to making packaged products. This is a snapshot which basically captures how these products are currently being sold. Milk unions are manufacturing these at a no profit and loss basis, and they are providing it to the farmers who are registered with the dairy cooperative societies. They are sold both as feed supplements as well as licensed products. In case of feed supplement, the Amul Dairy, the Sabar Dairy, the Banas Dairy, they're all milk unions under the Gujarat Milk Federation. They are trying to sell it as feed supplement. Very interestingly, the milk union from Kerala, which is Malabar Milk Union, has now started a startup under the name Ethnovet Milma and have obtained the license to sell these products as licensed products. And they are currently selling 8 products as any other drug. At the same time, private players are also on top of it, and they are selling similar licensed products which are being used in the dairy sector. Like we have given some examples here, like Ayurved and Trito Biotech, which are selling similar products. Okay. So here we are trying to, before we go into seeing what the use of Ethnovet medicine has done, how it has helped, it is also important for us to understand how it was done. So once the NDDB TDU Sabar Dairy collaboration figured out that this is working, the next step was to create awareness and allow more and more farmers on the ground to take it up. So one of the very important agenda that was taken up was to create an information brochure on ethnoveterinary formulations for people to be able to use it in their own farms. And NDDB TDU jointly came up with a brochure which you can see, which is available in 12 major languages and provides ingredients. What are the ingredients? How much quantity you need? How do you prepare it? What is the method of application? For how many days you need to apply? So it is there for more than 20 diseases now in the current version of the brochure. And not just this, interestingly, even they have barcodes on each disease page, which you can scan with the current advances in WhatsApp and other technologies. You can use these to even quickly jump onto YouTube videos and see how this can be done. So the next slide basically captures a snapshot of what all is there in the brochure. I will not go into detail, but just to let you know that all of it, there are more than 20 diseases, different diseases in bovine elements, and we have enlisted what are the different ingredients required. And you can see they're all basically homemade. They're all basically ingredients which are available at our homes. Okay. Other than the information brochure, what else was done? One is the development of an Android application, which is known as the eGopala app, and it now has a web version also. The National Dairy Development Board came up on this app along with the Department of Animal Husbandry as a collaborative project. Now, this application, which is again available in 12 languages, is something which is a one-stop shop for a farmer, if I may say. And you can see the picture. It allows the farmer to be able to understand, animal nutrition, to be able to understand Ayurvedic veterinary medicine, which is what we're talking about today. It is able to send alerts to farmers on when vaccination needs to be done. There are also ideas around where are the Pashu Bazaar, which means where animals are being currently sold, what are the events, what are the awareness profiles. So it's another very important development made under this project.
Rajeshwari, you will need to rush a bit. I'm going to cut you short, and I know that there are some very critical slides still to be shown. So please move a little faster, please.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. So I'll quickly move to the next slide. Apart from social media awareness and trainings that were done for both core group veterinarians, which was again passed on to other milk unions and producer companies, the MCPP also developed the Animal Health Management Information System to monitor this entire project, and it does quarterly evaluation of the project as well. So this is a brief snapshot of the timeline of the project. But what is most important, I think what we should talk about is what MCPP has done and what are the results. So till date, till October 2022, 7.8 lakh diseases across 25 unions were subjected to being treated by the Ethnovet medicine. And it showed an overall 80.4% cure rate. If you look at the table, we have enlisted 9 major diseases out of the 29 diseases, particularly because these are the ones where antibiotics were majorly used. And within these 9 diseases, again, the use of EVM showed 80.9% cure rate. And we have focused here largely on 4 diseases, which is mastitis, fever, diarrhea, and indigestion, because all these 4 themselves cover 77% of the total number of cases addressed. And again, more than 80% cure rate was observed. So if I may say, 4 out of every 5 animals were found to be getting cured by the use of Ethnovet medicines. Now, this is a very populated slide, but if I may just draw your attention, if we look at the top 4 important diseases we're talking about, we will see that state-wise or union and milk producer company-wise, most of the cure rates, in fact, all the cure rates were more than 50%, which means out of every 2 animals, 1 was getting cured with EVM, and many of them have cure rates above 70%. So, having said this, let us understand what these results mean, how the use of EVM has helped not just cure the animal, but what are the other potential impacts it has had on the farmer and the consumer. Very importantly, it has been successful in providing access to safe milk and safe milk products for the consumer. Undoubtedly, if we are not using antibiotic and switching to the use of Ethnovet medicines, access to antibiotic-free milk is something which is easy for us. At the same time, when we are rearing cattle in the absence of antibiotics, we are able to reduce the drivers of AMR. We are able to reduce the presence of AMR determinants in the environment, not just through the food product, which is milk, but also through the environment. So with no antibiotics excreted in the animal byproducts, AMR safe manure that we are able to get is able to contribute to the growing organic movement in India. Apart from the safe milk and milk products, there has been an overwhelming impact on the farmer livelihood as well. And it has happened in 2 ways. One is it has helped the farmer reduce its overall treatment expenses. And how it has happened with reduced consumption of antibiotics, reduced consumption of veterinary medicines, the expenses have gone down. At the same time, with so much awareness created, the farmer has become independent, and the farmer dependence on the veterinarians have also gone down, which has resulted in a decline in veterinary interventions from veterinarians. At the same time, when milk that the farmer sells at the district cooperative society is found to be free of antibiotic residues, there is lesser rejection of the milk, which has again had an positive economic impact on the farmers. Okay. This slide basically presents a couple of data that we have requested from Savar Dairy to show how the use of EVM had helped them. And we see that between 2017-18 till December 2020, about 2.3 lakh veterinary calls have been reduced. So that is the extent in which the veterinary intervention has gone down, and about rupees 191 lakhs have been saved on medicine cost during the same time period. Again, when we look at the antibiotic which was consumed and purchased, we see that the purchase came down from 210 lakhs to 63 lakhs in a span of 5 years. And similarly, the consumption was reduced by more than 130 lakhs. So not just economic impact, but it also shows how farmers are becoming more and more self-reliant and are able to use this alternative to antibiotics. What needs to be done to upscale this ethnoveterinary medicine approach? We see encouraging results, but this can only take shape further. It can move beyond these unions when the central and state governments come together to promote and upscale the project, not just at the federation level, but as well as at the big and small milk producers and the procurement agencies through the right policies and programs. And this should involve the creation of the right awareness among the key stakeholders, which is the vets, the veterinarians, para-veterinarians, farmers, milk procurement agencies, through right training and capacity building. A research agenda is most important. The TDU is currently working on building, on contributing to the research findings, and not just a research agenda, but promoting pilot projects across different states for different diseases and formulations is something which is also required. For veterinarians, it is important that their curriculum gets modified to include the ethnoveterinary medicine aspect, and also these products should come under regulation for both price and quality, and they should be. I have also mentioned somewhere in one of my previous slides about how important demonstration through herbal gardens, how important demonstration, live demonstration is important. So how these should also be made available to the farmers and the local producers to be able to take this up for implementation. Not just implementing EVF, but monitoring is also very important, not just on how it has helped, but also documenting, like we are discussing today, documenting their impact on cost, livelihood, health, what is the extent of residues in milk and how it has helped reduce AMR load. Incentivizing antibiotic-free milk or milk produced without the use of antibiotics is something which can also be considered. Consumer awareness, more so in the World Antimicrobial Awareness Week, it is more important create awareness about this very important development that is happening in this country, and at the same time incentivizing cattle dung not treated with antibiotics for use in crops as organic manure. So Sunita ji, I would like to stop here and allow discussions to be taken to take over on these basic findings. Thank you. You're on mute, Sunita ji.
Thank you. Thank you, Rajeshwari, and thank you, the team which has put this together. And thank you to all my co-panelists, and many of you have helped us to put this data together. Our effort was to really document what is being done and to also understand it and make the linkages. So thank you so much. And I now have an amazing group of panelists to help us to see this issue in perspective, but also to help us to see what can be done further. So I am going to call upon Mr. Hari Kumar, A.V. Hari Kumar, who is the Deputy General Manager at the National Dairy Development Board, the agency which is, as most Indians know NDDB very well. We drink the milk that you supply. So you don't need an introduction for us, but I think most importantly have taken the initiative to do this massive research. Mr. Kumar, my question to you and to all the panelists who is going to be simple. Really, how do you see your response to what has happened? What you have done in this case. And of course, the most important thing is, how do you see the scaling up happening now? What do you see as the next steps? And that's really something that I will ask all the panelists. But first you, Mr. Hari Kumar, please.
Thank you very much for having me here today. And it's a pleasure. And what we have been doing basically, for any solutions, because we always work with the small and marginal farmers, who's our core, target group. So efficacy, the cost efficacy is the prime consideration. So whatever technology that comes into the field is taken to the field needs to be cost effective. So while scouting around, different alternatives for trying to reduce the use of antibiotics, we came across the research by Tanuvas and TDU and Professor Punyamurthy and thought, why not we give this a try? Not that we were convinced initially that it could work, but slowly when we actually started developing the data on it, we were really, so convinced in the end that yes, it is possible. It is an alternative. It's not that this is the only way that you can go about, but this was considered as one of the alternatives because basically the cost efficacy is what is the main consideration that as NDDB and looking into the interests of the small and marginal farmers, the cost efficacy was something that was on the top. So whatever technology we are talking about, if it is not affordable, then there's no point. So slowly we have been developing since 2017-18. We have been developing the database on empirical data. Initially, it was just empirical data on the numbers, and now empirically we have almost 8 lakh cases now recorded as of today, with more than 80% efficacy rate. And we are now into this year on. We are now into individual animal recording, and slowly we will try to compare the results with the empirical data. But our findings are that it is almost matching. There's no much of a difference. Now, regarding the scaling up, we have actually, our initial efforts were focused on scaling up. Without scaling up, it's not going to take unless you speak the language of the farmers in their language, it's very difficult to get your message across. So that is the thing that we had focused from the start, that you need to have all this formulations and preparation, as Punyamurthy sir would emphasize on this, that the way you prepare it, the way you apply it, has a direct relationship to the efficacy rates. So that's why you see the difference in different milk unions. The way you apply it is very important, and how you apply it is very important, and how you prepare it is very important. So we have emphasized on that for very short videos of 1 to 2 minutes, so that the attention span is not lost. So 2 minutes max for every video. And as was already presented, it is also linked to the posters and brochures where you have the QR codes, and you can directly scan and watch the videos. And also it is available on the eGopal app. Now, taking it forward, we would like all agencies involved in this endeavor of trying to reduce the antibiotics across the livestock systems to take this up and spread the message that you have so much of information already, and it needs to be used, basically. So we have it in all languages. You have digitization happening across the country, so it is there. So we just need to scale it up and take it to the larger canvas. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harikumar. I will come back to all panelists with the second round. Catherine, if I may now pull you into this. Catherine Van Hoft is the Executive Director, Foundation for Natural Livestock Farming, and Director, Dutch Farm Experience in the Netherlands. Catherine, my question is the same to you.
Okay, thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here and to be part of this wonderful meeting, because I really think that the work that has been done in India is so incredibly important, not only for India themselves, yourself, but also for the rest of the world. And I will try to explain why. My own background is that I have been meeting Professor Punyamurthy and the others since 1997, and since then we have started collaborating on Ethnovet medicine and more sustainable livestock keeping in the world. And this has come to a next level when we started exchange programs in 2015 to 2018, bringing together veterinarians and farmers, dairy farmers, on the topic of reducing antibiotic use between the Netherlands, India, Ethiopia, and Uganda. And that was so successful at that time that we started to organize ourselves as a foundation, which we now call Natural Livestock Farming. And this has the objective of reducing the use of antibiotics and also overall improving the health of cattle and the quality of the milk throughout the world. And we have seen that ethnoveterinary medicine is very crucial, but it's not the only element. Of course, it needs to be combined with other elements related to cattle health. And so we have a strategy that we call the Natural Livestock Farming 5-layer strategy, which comprises of animal management, good animal management, then good breeding, having animals adapted to the local circumstances, then the use of herbs and ethnoveterinary medicine, then quality control or the quality of the product, and then farm income, farm economic, the income of the farmers. So those 5 layers, we believe, needs to be in a combined way used to support farmers in their cattle health, and in that way integrate ethnoveterinary medicine within this whole package. Now, I believe in India that has been done by including EVP into Natural Dairy Development Board strategy in terms of animal management and feeding and housing and all these kind of things. But we have also, with these excellent results that you have seen, but we also have done a similar pilot in Ethiopia, focusing on these same 5 layers. And it turned out, this was a very small scale pilot, but it turned out to be equally successful in terms of improving cattle health, reducing mortality, bringing up farmers' income with 30% farmers' income increase. So we now have proof of concept that this works not only within India, but also beyond. Also, we did work in Uganda on herbal ways of controlling ticks. That was, unfortunately, we could not continue that pilot, but it was equally, you see that farmers really become engaged in this kind of strategies. And also in the Netherlands, we have done work, but you see that in large-scale dairy, like the Netherlands, the strategy needs to be different. Similarly, we need to revive old wisdom, but in large-scale dairy, it is you need to follow another route, because in our large-scale system we use more ready-made herbal products, not fresh herbs like in India. So then it is different. So in terms of the question of how to promote this further, because now that we have proof of concept that's Ethnovet combined within this whole package of animal health measures, that it really works and that it really encounters enthusiasm of the farmers. It brings along not only better cattle health, but also a better income. It also brings a better environment. So we put this into that we call a One Health concept, because by bringing this into improving cattle health, we also improve the quality of the food, like the milk, and so the food of the people, so it's better health of the people. And because of reduced chemicals in the environment, it is also improving the environment. So it's a One Health concept. And that is now really gaining ground. But I do have some recommendations for this upscaling strategy. One would be, take it not only Ethnovet separately, put it within this integrated concept. Yes. Otherwise, you can use herbs, but if the management is not okay or the breeding goes wrong, it doesn't work. And the other one is also differentiate between different farming systems. In large-scale dairy, you need a similar the 5-layer strategy, but EVP works different in those countries. It is a different, you need different strategy. Another one is that India, you have to understand that India in the world is not, although you are the largest dairy producer in the world, this is very unknown to the rest of the world, unfortunately. And also, unfortunately, India is seen as the major hotspots of antimicrobial resistance. So if you then say that we all have to follow the example of India, this encounters a lot of some kind of like, what? And so I find that it is very useful to bring together the experiences from different countries, including from our country, the Netherlands, and walk together, bring this forward together as a joint effort where we can learn from each other. No country is perfect. No country has the true example for the rest of the world, but we all contribute to a really big, huge, immense problem of antibiotic resistance.
Thank you.
Those would be my recommendations. I think reviving lost wisdom would be the central item. Also in our country, in the Netherlands, we think we know it all, that technology can solve all the problems, but we now encounter that our farmers in the Netherlands encounter huge problems with this industrialized system.
Yes.
So also here we are working towards reviving lost wisdom.
Yeah.
For example,
Catherine, I'll come back to you on it. I have many other panelists. I will
thank you.
back
Sorry.
on this issue again, because I think the issue of intensive food farming systems, large-scale farming, needs to be discussed in this context. And I will come back to that question next.
Thank you.
But I want to ask Mr. Punyamurthy, you've heard his name many times in the matter of just this last hour. Extraordinary work that has happened under his leadership and direction. So, Mr. Punyamurthy, how do you see now the upscaling happening of this, and where do you see the next steps? But really, congratulations again for this amazing work that you and your team have done.
Thank you, Madam Sunita. It's been a pleasure for me to be here this occasion, the last 20 years of some imaginary work from the point of view of many of my colleagues in the university and in the field where veterinarians have got a very specific view about healthcare. So my stand indicated that ethnoveterinary knowledge base can support the farming community. I would like to just point some of the issues which was very much the forefront of my work 20 years back. Number one, see, healthcare. After my visit to US and Canada and AHRTP in the North American universities, what I learned was that antibiotics have come to an end because of so many issues where we wrote a paper on that. So that was one thing. And most of the work happening there is not directed to the Indian farmers. So the 2 points were very clear. And if you say, as a pharmacologist, telling people don't use these things, that thing, identifying problems, okay, but we have to find solutions. So my point in the last 20 years has given a very clear picture. Healthcare in livestock, because we're not talking about human beings, that's a very, very wide and very complicated issue. So as far as livestock is concerned, put yourself into the shoes of the farmer. You feel that it should be an accessible, resource-wise and service-wise, and it should be affordable. So these two things are happening in all types of things. The veterinarians are well trained across the country. They diagnose, they give what has been taught to them, they give injections and what sort of other things possible. But the third and important point, which I personally feel is very important for livestock healthcare as far as medical intervention is concerned, there should be a predictable outcome. Suppose you treat a case of mastitis. Whatever type of treatment you take up, you should be able to bring back the original milk yield the animal was yielding. So many farmers now, they say, my animal is cured, sir. What do you mean by that? I was getting 12 liters earlier, now I am getting 7 liters. 5 liters they have lost. So this was a major problem as a pharmacologist, as a farmer myself. So I was just going in search of this. The only thing is, in Tamil Nadu, the Siddha traditional knowledge system is very widely practiced and so many hundreds of people are there. We are only feeling that knowledge system is marginalized. So luckily, there was a possibility for me when I transferred to an extension center in Tanjavur. We could work with mastitis because Nothing much of an instrumentation was required for me to monitor that. So aloe vera, chuna and haldi combination, this turmeric, chuna and aloe vera, what I did first, not to use any other combination, and tried it in my own cows, this combination. After a few years, 2-3 years time, what was really coming out was that as a natural product, mastitis like diseases, which is highly multi-etiological disease involving so many types of microbes. In some cases, 30% of the mastitis cases do not involve microbes. There is no point in giving antibiotics independently to all the cases of mastitis. So luckily, we could manage mastitis within 3 to 5 days. Came my way the ICR network program, and then the Tamil Nadu government gave another Part 2 project. We had enough funds, and our association with FRLHT TDU Bangalore provided the platform for the dissemination. And then in 2016, NDDB's association enabled us to scale up this, because when I talked about 20 animals, 100 animals, 200 animals, people were not willing to buy the story because they thought it is only a flash in the pan. But NDDB made it into hundreds of thousands and multi-centric various places across the country in 20-25 centers that made it very clear this is a workable model. But again, I am very, very careful in saying antibiotic is only one part of the story. As far as you take reproduction, we are completely avoiding hormones. We are not using any hormones. We are using aloe vera, radish, our turmeric, moringa leaves, and then curry leaves. We are able to make the animal pregnant, which has not been pregnant for the last 3 years. So natural products are there, not only to control antibiotics. Again, people are telling, so why we should worry about these natural products, which in a very fresh form is not available everywhere. But what I would like to say is, if you talk about cuisine, people are very happy about spices being used without any quants. But when you talk about medicine, it's our mindset. We think pepper, turmeric only as a part of the cuisine, but not of the medicine. But traditionally, these are all part of very much of the traditional system. And what we have seen in the last 20 years is viral, bacterial, metabolic, wounds, skin lesions, reproductive disorders, you name it, we can manage. My only view was name one disease and give one recipe which is most effective, but that is not the end, that is only a beginning. So I would like to just draw in my first turn that ethnoveterinary medicine based on the traditional Siddha knowledge in this case across the country being propagated is the starting point, and this is only tip of the iceberg. We can take it to any level. It has been designed in such a way, we are not using roots, we are not using barks, we are not using toxic plants, we are not using any rare plants, all easily coming under GRAS, generally regarded as safe materials and spices used in the kitchen. Now, the surprise for everyone is this is able to handle even the new and emerging disease like lumpy skin disease. So this is the beauty of this knowledge system. Please have a look at it. I'm very happy Government of India is thinking about taking ethnoveterinary medicine into the BBSc curriculum. So we can talk more about it anytime.
Thank you. Alfonso, if I can now draw you into this discussion. Alfonso Zecconi is a full professor, epidemiology and infectious diseases of domestic animals, and is co-founder of the One Health unit at the University of Milan in Italy. When you listen to all this, does it sound too romantic, too sort of, difficult to really think about how you would scale it up within a profession which is designed very differently in terms of treatment and prevention of animal diseases? Alfonso?
Thank you. First of all, thank you for the invitation. I'm really happy to be here, and it really was informative for me. I should say, as probably Catherine said before, the ethnomedicine in human and veterinary medicine is not only an Indian interest, but I think the interest is worldwide. We have quite an increasing interest in using herbal remedies also in the so-called industrialized world or Western world, if you want. And that means that we need to have information, scientific information, something that could be delivered to the field in a proper way. So, and I see even from the comments from the participants on the chat, some of them emphasize the problem to evaluate in a proper way the efficacy of the different herbal or mix of herbs that you are using for, and we are using, because we also are using in some way in our country for treating the animals. I would like to in some way focus on, or to point out some of the potential problems, and maybe to try to suggest some solutions. So one thing is that looking also to the paper you have prepared and to the presentation you showed before, I think there is a mix of infectious disease and metabolic diseases, and they are treated the same way. Not meaning on the same with the same remedy, but overall they are a little bit mixed. This will be a potential problem because if you have an infectious disease, this either from bacteria or even from viruses, could be a zoonotic disease or could be a wide spreading disease for the animals. So if you are using the remedy, the ethnomedicine to reduce the clinical signs or to reduce the problem, that will be helpful for the farmer because it's producing more. And I believe it's true, it's no problem from this point of view, but you are in some way eating the real problem. So it's important to in my opinion, to scale up the system to make it clear what is applied to control a metabolic disease, and the other one is to control an infectious disease. I say that because mastitis is a typical problem of this kind, and it was even in the past in my country, in the overall Europe and US. The nutrition became the source of mastitis. Mastitis is caused by bacteria. So bacteria enter into the mammary gland and create the problem. So if I trying if I see effect of any kind of treatment given orally, this is not an effect on the bacteria, it's an effect on the metabolic system of the cow or the immunological system of the cow. So the cow is more protected or is more imbalanced, and is able to cover the mastitis problem. This is important because if we think to solve this problem through this way, then we can miss some important bacteria, and then these bacteria came to the human being. And I have a little experience of India, but it was part of another project looking to the reduction of antimicrobial diseases, the antimicrobial usage. You are using a lot of UHT milk or sterilized milk. At this point, you can take care of many problems, but in the future, I'm assuming, because it's what is happening in all other countries, you are using much more pasteurized milk, will use much more, or you eat more cheese or other dairy products. That will be in the future not so heavily treated in terms of, so highly treated with heat treatment. So then if you are not controlling the bacteria, you will have more problems. So again, try to have a balance between what is important for the farmers, and I agree that if the farmers see 5 liters more, 10 liters more after treatment, he will be very happy. But be careful, sometimes this is only due to the metabolic problem. You are solving that, but if it's not a metabolic problem, you will increase the risk for the human being. So ethnomedicine is not the enemy of the antibiotics. It should be used together. As Catherine said before, you need to implement the management, the hygiene, and so on. This will be give to this products, mainly if they are prepared in a standardized way. They will be much more helpful for the farmer. So it's important to try to keep the things in balance. If not, as it's happening in the Western country, or in the industrialized country, many farmers switch to ethnomedicine because there are no residues. but we need to check if this true, because if you are again only drinking milk, maybe you don't have so many problems. But if you are producing cheese or other things, that could be affect the cheese production and cheese yield. So again, all these factors should be analyzed and verified, because if not, at the beginning will be a great benefit, but the more you improve the dairy industry, the more you will face new problems, and then it will be more difficult to try to solve them. So to sum up, I think it's important to try to apply a scientific way, in a scientific way, that how we check the efficacy, to try to describe a little bit the mechanism, and to put this in a more harmonized way, as we heard before. Thank you.
Thank you, Alfonso. Very wise words. Thank you. I think very interesting. Anilji, if I may call you in now, call upon you. And I think something of what Alfonso also said, the whole question about the systemic approach, that do you see this as part of a number of things that need to be done, not just, in your dairy, not just in terms of moving from, antibiotics to EVM, but also what else is needed in this so that it comes together. Please, but also your experience in this interesting work.
So thank you so much for inviting on this evening.
Oh, let me just introduce you. I don't think everyone else would have known. We know you so well that we tend to take it for granted. So Mr. Anil Kumar Baiti is the Managing Director of the Sabarkantha District Cooperative Milk Producers. You heard about it when Rajeshwari is talking about the Sabar Dairy, as it is known. Please.
So thank you so much for inviting on this evening. As already Rajeshwari had shared that the Sabar Dairy was the pioneer in implementing this EVM systems in the cattle health treatment. And also there were few colleagues from CSE, they were here to study the systems in the village where we implemented this system effectively. Yes, my fellow colleague Hari Kumar is there, who already scaled up these things all over India. But NDDB started in 2014, but in Sabar Dairy actually activities started from 2017 onwards. But initial days were little different, and in fact for first 2 years we could not treat anything in a cattle in the initial days. The reason being the way we have implemented means we need to bring the confidence of the doctors, because when you go for the treatment, be it a human being or animals, the farmers also believe in the doctors. So that is the one part which we taught in the involvement of the doctors in the implementation. Another part is the way we implement it. Means my fellow colleague already said, the preparation and application part for the treatment part, that was also very critical. And third part is all these ingredient availability and quality of material. So in all these three fronts we have worked. And another most important part is affordability, which is already been shared by colleagues. So on those four fronts we have worked, and today we can say that most of the disease in Sabar Dairy, in all the society, we have 1800 societies where we are working on all the societies, and the cattle treatment around 2,59,000 or 2,60,000 cattle, cows and buffalo we have. So we have effectively implemented this treatment for not only mastitis, for other disease also, as already shared in the this thing. So, and to make it convenience for you, because it should be convenient also to use it. So we have prepared different combination of products which can be easily mixed at the village level. For example, for mastitis. So you need aloe vera, turmeric, calcium hydroxide, and of course the lemon for the preparation of pest. So we have prepared a different packs where can be mixed at the village level. Easily it can be applied on the infested part or udder or the mammary gland of these things. And today we have effectively implemented in all these animals, and really almost more than 80%. And this treatment is as effective as any allopathy treatment which we are doing it before. So now the acceptance level in the entire area has come, and most of the animals we are treating with this EVM, this thing. And this why it is important that already been said, but my fellow colleague has also said that when the antibiotic residues, which we are giving before, when it comes to the milk, so it definitely plays with the human health because AMR is the big issue which is there. Over and above this, when we are making the products in the manufacturing sector, where the cheese is one factor, where we are in the, wherever there is bacterial activities are there, the fermented products, cheese is the one product which is fermented. Then there are yogurts, curds, and different products which we are making. So these antibiotic residue which were coming when feeding because of rampant use and also the controls over the use of these antibiotics, these were having impact on the product quality also. So overall, if we see, it's a time to think and work on the alternative of the antibiotics and implement it effectively like we have done here. And we have facilitated farmers, we have created awareness, we have educated farmers to make it effective. So, and the treatment cost, if you really see, for particularly when we talk of mastitis, a treatment cost from EVM is around 500 rupees per treatment, total treatment if you treat this. Against that, if you go with the allopathy or antibiotic treatment, close to 5,000 rupees. It's a 10 times. So it made the treatment very affordable also to the farmers. And that's how the overall acceptance among the farmers have come. If we see the treatment cost of the entire factory which we are doing, in 2017-18, we were spending almost more than 2 crore rupees on the different treatments which we are doing on the animals, which has come down to 25%, around 55 to 60 lakhs now we are spending. So there is a lot of economic benefits which is happening. Another very important thing, because now these things are readily available at the farm level. We have veterinary services, healthcare systems very well in place, not only now for many years it is in place, but if you see these things are readily available at our dairy cooperative societies. So as soon as the farmers or come to know, they reach to the society and the timely actions are also taken. So it reduces the spread of inflammation, especially when we talk of the mastitis. So timely intervention also is helping. Otherwise, what happens? And every 6 hours, this microbial, it's a mastitis, a microbial inflammation of the teeth canal. The same. So it multiplies and it reaches to from subclinical. If you don't timely treatment is given, it reaches to the clinical side also, where the losses are much higher. If you see the survey part, it's only the mastitis only itself. Almost 10 years back, the survey was done around the subclinical, because mastitis has 2 parts. When it's acute state, it's a clinical, and in the beginning stage, subclinical state. So around 1,500 crore rupees of losses because of this clinical and subclinical level, around 4,500 crore rupees worth of losses were happening. So this kind of treatment at primary level and well received by the farmers, and they have seen the benefits of these farmers, and this is now implemented effectively in the village level. And NDDB being a nodal agency, now they have worked all over India and different part of the country, India especially, it is spread, and now I'm sure many places it's being used. The team which has come and they went to the villages, hardly any farmers or maybe all the farmers have given positive feedback about the EVM, the results which they have got based on this. So it's a really effective way of treatment, and it can be a very effective alternative to the use of allopathic drugs for the treatment of not only mastitis, many other diseases which we are right now, even pyrexia, enteritis, indigestion, even for the one of my fellow colleagues also said that when you consume the lot of antibiotic treatment, it has impact on there are a lot of side effects also. So it has an effect on the reproductive systems and other things also where the animals are affected. And in fact, we are not talking of even some of my colleagues were telling the infectious disease also, whether it can be treated or not. So in these kind of medicines, AVM can even treat the infectious disease kind of foot and mouth disease also can be treated of some of the experiments which we have done, and we have really found it very effective in the treatment. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Payate. Daniela, if I may now ask you, Daniela Battaglia, who's the Animal Production Officer at the FAO in Italy. Daniela, listening to all this, do you see How do you see this getting scaled up, and how do you see the acceptability of these solutions that are being offered?
Thank you very much. And thank you very much for inviting. Actually, it was very interesting information I have heard so far. And I think I will have to echo what some of the other speakers already said. Definitely, that ethnoveterinary medicine is a very interesting possibility, worth exploring more and possibly, hopefully, scaling up also in other countries. But of course, as also Professor Zacconi was saying, and Catherine van Hofte from the Netherlands, there is not only a golden bullet. We have to take into account all the different good practices that have to be applied in animal production to allow us possibly to reduce the need to use antimicrobial and therefore to contribute to the diminishing of antimicrobial resistance. Good genetic makeup, good hygiene, good management, good welfare. These are all elements that have to be taken into account, together, of course, with good nutrition. Nutrition can contribute also a lot to the decrease of the need to use antimicrobial resistance. And actually, FAO, I don't want to go too much in detail of what we're busy with. I think you all know by now about our fight to decrease antimicrobial resistance, both alone and together with other UN or non-UN organizations like WHO, UNEP, and HOA in the so-called quadripartite activities. So in our efforts, we're also trying to find alternatives in the animal feeding that could allow us to decrease the need to use antimicrobials. We've started this work. We have been asked by our governing bodies to explore more. And among these alternatives, there is also the traditional remedies, the traditional knowledges, and with that, the ethnoveterinary medicine. So we are looking at those practices more in depth. Of course, from a scientific point of view, really what are the effects in, for instance, as you were saying before, if it's possible to use it instead of antimicrobials in a preventive mode, but also for growth promotion. We do encourage countries not to use antimicrobials for growth promotion wherever it's possible. And for that, we need alternative because, of course, we don't want to decrease the efficiency of animal production. We don't want to decrease the economic sustainability. And then again, I would like to recall what others have said in having a systemic approach, looking at not only the reduction of antimicrobials, but also how this could be done in a way that we cause no harm in other important sustainability objectives. And when I say sustainability from environmental, social, and economic point of view. So again, calling for a one health and possibly one welfare approach, we may want to put in practice all those elements together with ethnoveterinary medicine to address the topic. But it's definitely worth analyzing more in depth and possibly through our activities, project in the field and so on, scaling up in the terms of informing or disseminating the information about these valid practices also to other countries and other regions. I think we're a little bit, we don't have too much time, so I would like to stop here and happy to reply to other questions if they arise. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniela. So I have a little time, and what I'm going to do is to ask two questions. And I would like to ask Catherine and Alfonso my first question, and I will leave it to either one of you who would like to answer it or both. And then I would like to ask my colleagues from India the second question. And Daniela, you also feel free to jump in to the first particularly. So as a member of the Global Leaders Group that, as you know, GLG, that has been set up on antimicrobial resistance, working with my colleagues Rajeshwari, Amit, and Deepak, one of our biggest challenges has been to make the international community aware of the need for prevention and for looking at antimicrobial resistance as part of the food systems approach. And that has taken a huge effort to get people to understand that it's not just about reducing antimicrobials to some extent, but really about why are they used. And whether it's been the question of growth promoters, which we clearly would like to see completely removed, or whether it has been even the use, the declining use in, say, Europe and the US, which we don't believe is good enough. And that is related very much to the intensive food farming systems that operate in these countries, and therefore the need for antimicrobials that get used. Now, in that context, when you hear about alternatives coming in, now those alternatives could be EVMs, could be herbal medicines, could be anything which basically reduces the use of antimicrobials. Do you see that the organized large dairy farming community in your country, whether it's Italy or the Netherlands, actually having an appetite to do studies on this and taking this up? Or do you see them essentially coming up with some greenwash technology, greenwash speeches, which tell us that, yes, they're reducing antimicrobials, but or that the residues are not there in the final milk product, but the actual reduction is still somewhere between, I saw 100 kgs to sort of 80. So it's not of the level that we need the world to go towards. So do you see this happening in your world? Or do you see, just like what Alfonso was in some senses telling us, it's a good solution, but it probably is too cute and too alternative for the big guys to take on? Catherine and Alfonso, I'm putting you both in the hot seat on this.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I think this is really interesting, and we've been working on trying to see how the approach of Ethnovet, how this would work within our large-scale dairy system. There are a few things. One is related to antimicrobial resistance and the reduction of antibiotic use. One is that in our countries, they have started with legislation. There is very strong legislation here that was started in 2016, that the use of antimicrobials in livestock had to be reduced by 70%, 70. Within a few years' time. And that was done by linking up farmers and veterinarians together and making veterinarians responsible for the use of antimicrobials by the farmers. So that in our country, in our system, turned out to be very successul. And I do believe that that is also something that could be looked at within India. As long as you the free sale of antibiotics. So that is one of the issues. The other issue is that ethnoveterinary medicine with fresh herbs in our countries is translated into two aspects. One is fresh herbs in grassland. So rather than making it a curative use, it is preventive, and by bringing back herbs in the grassland. And that is now really coming up very strong. And farmers are taking it on, and they're seeing that that improves the health of cattle. But it requires a system change, which, by the way, is a system change we need. And the other element is that rather than using fresh herbs for curative reasons, farmers use natural products. So which are like the herbs within packages or within ready-made products. And then we find that farmers use those products, but they are outside of the control of veterinarians. And veterinarians here don't know about them. They're not trained on this. So in our work in the Netherlands, we're doing a lot with safety of herbal products, and also training veterinarians and farmers on the use of those herbal products. So that is what makes it really different from the situation in smallholder countries like India. But in countries like Africa, it would be very good to link up far more and in a larger scale with what's happened in India, because in low and middle income countries, the system is very similar to India. So I believe that it would be very wise that we, and I hope we can do that in the near future, sit together and see where we can build on both experiences from India and experiences from the Netherlands, and of course elsewhere, to bring together into a wider approach at global level. Thank you.
Wonderful. I think we will definitely take you up on that offer, because I think that's really the key for moving ahead. Alfonso, would you like to add anything to this very briefly? Because
even if you put many questions, so I try to summarize with two keywords. One is money, and the other is information. So starting with the latter one, when we work on antimicrobial resistance, education, information is the main issue, because as somebody says also in the chat, the problem is not only related to veterinary medicine or to animals or to livestock animals. A lot of antimicrobial resistance came from human medicine with improper use of antimicrobials in human medicine. We are not to forget that. And personally, I'm working in a human medicine department. I'm repeating a lot of time to my colleagues, be careful, because you are the most important vehicle for this problem, and try to be very short, but actually in Europe, not only in Italy, animals treated with antimicrobials are registered electronically. Human treated with antimicrobials are not registered at all. So I am not able to do anything on the animals, but as human being, I could go to the pharmacy, get an antimicrobial and use as I want. So there is no comparison. The other point is money. Money is important because you say large farmer will like to apply. They will like to apply if they are effective and if they are cost effective. And come back, and I will stop here. The use of antimicrobials as growth promoter is not a strange thing. Is a way to cover management deficiency with antimicrobials. We did in 60s and 70s. In large emerging countries, they are doing because they, in this way, some problems in the farm are covered by antibiotics. So again, we come back to information and education. We need to improve prevention, and then you don't need to use antimicrobials. Microbials became a band-aid for problems, but it's not the solution, as you know, we know very well. So this is important thing. You have not, and my suggestion is not to do the same mistake with ethnoveterinary medicine. It became a band-aid for inefficiency. This should be a part of a positive system, not a way to cover problems.
Thank you. The question I have to Mr. Harikumar, Mr. Bayati, and Mr. Punyamurthy is, the point that Catherine made, and we should need to think about this, that, India has this reputation. I mean, I have to say, as an Indian, I'm very proud of our dairy system, because I think we have an alternative dairy system where smallholder farmers benefit and are linked to a federation. I really think that model, what you call the Uber model or the Airbnb model, is an incredible model that the world needs to understand. But on the other hand, there is this question. There are two issues here. One, that India is seen to be, not a very good example when it comes to antimicrobial use. But more importantly, and I think that's what concerns me, is, we often have a tendency of taking what is not validated in science, but making big claims around it. And that often means that the Indian alternative medicine profession has got a broad view to say, yes, it's okay, but it's not a real answer. Now, the reason I'm excited, and I had asked Deepak and Rajeshwari and Amit to work on this, is because we wanted to see the data from you. We wanted to see the validation from you and to see how much of it actually can be shown up as happening. But how do you make sure, Mr. Harikumar, Mr. Baitian, Mr. Punyamurthy, that we make sure that this movement of taking data, the science to data, and then to farmers is maintained? That we don't end up with just saying, oh, everything can be cured. I mean, I've seen this often. Everything can be cured. Everything can happen. And that then means that nothing, and that whole entire effort that is made to be able to carefully understand what NDDB has done, this range of the study, that gets lost. So how do you make sure, Mr. Harikumar, Mr. Baiti and Mr. Punyamurthy, that we stay on course on this, that we keep looking for data, we keep validating it, and then putting it out? Please.
Sure.
Mr. Harikumar first.
That's a very valid question that you had asked, and what has been put up by the other panelists. It's true that we become, convinced by ourselves that it is going to work, and we say that it is a panacea for everything. No. So that is the reason why initially we had started with empirical data. So we are still in the stage of building a database. So initially we have started on empirical data. That is the first step, and we have that is happening around 800,000 records we have, and now we have shifted to the next stage, that is individual animal monitoring. So under individual animal monitoring, now we have almost say around 75,000 as of now, and slowly we try to correlate these two and see where are the gaps. Okay. So it's not that all the diseases are giving you around 80%. No, there are still some that are showing you lesser. Now, is it because of the formulation? Is it because that the recording is not proper, or is it because the application is not proper? So these are the things that we are slowly trying to look into for certain diseases. And talking about the science behind, I think Punyamurthy sir is already working on that, on various formulations. How do you do? He will be talking probably about the reverse pharmacology that he's working on. And yes, it is true that we do need some basic research on how. Now we're talking a lot of active ingredients. Probably we should. Is there something more to it? Active ingredient is probably the science that we know about, but is there something more to it? Is there I don't think in India we have even started looking into it. But are we looking into microRNAs? Probably that could be one option. Or are we looking into some other principle that has not been explored? So this is some basic research probably that is required in order to be in line with the Western systems of science and try to correlate these two. So this is my take on it.
No, thank you. And Mr. Punyamurthy, you're very unusual because you have always worked on both the medicine, but more importantly, the science. And I say this to you because, I see a lot of your own, our own profession. And we have this, who have a tendency of talking too much without the backing of science. How will you make sure, and I think that's really something that concerns me, because I don't want to see this amazing work that is happening lost and getting dismissed, saying, oh, there is not enough data on it. I mean, that there isn't, this is just anecdotal. And that also happens because we often tend to oversimplify or over amplify that, I hear Ayurvedic physicians, for instance, saying everything can be cured, including cancer, including this, including that. And then everybody looks at you and says, oh, but it's not quite that simple. So how do you're in a tough spot. I mean, there is a huge established veterinary industry, which essentially will be open to these ideas, I'm sure, but still resistant to these ideas because they're taught differently. How will you make sure that in the journey going forward, that the science and the validation of the science is done very carefully and seriously so that we don't lose this messaging? Please.
Yes, madam, you are right in telling that it's very difficult for a person in the citadel of modern science thinking about something that's not part of the curriculum, that's been marginalized, been eroded for a large scale, and only something is remaining in terms of usage. So, but my first premise was truly that the fundamental research components like repeatability, reproducibility, and reliability was very much part of our assessment. We never wanted to make any compromise on that. See, for example, when you take mastitis, we ensured that within a 4 or 5 days time, we recovered all the milk and we followed it for months together to prove that there is no recurrence. Because I was also worried we should not create more problems with the natural products, which might also induce some sort of, because this sort of antimicrobial is a natural phenomenon. So people very often forget it is the drug pressure. You get too much of drug pressure. You know, in 2017, WHO came out with some very clear indications. You cannot use certain type of third generation antibiotic as the first choice. But people are not aware of that first choice, second choice, third choice. And most of them are using antibiotics as antipyretics, analgesic, antihistaminic. They don't know that the antibiotics do not have any of these activities. For a simple fever, you know, biologically, evolutionarily, fever is an attempt by the individual to ward off some initial discomfort is shown by the animal. There is no need for an immediate intervention there. So ethnoveterinary medicine comes handy to deal with that. So I am particularly, and our team at TDU and DDB are very clear that we are working at the just scrap over the space. Just we have started, and all the research needed is very much wanted. We are looking for more and more funds, and whatever we have seen so much is very, very positive. That is our message now. Yeah. Our message is it's very positive. Let us go forward. We move forward, take whatever is required to analyze it. For example, in foot and mouth disease, it's a viral disease. There is no antibiotic. There is nothing for that. Our combination makes the animal eat in 24 hours. Let us work all other things later. You give it as a first line of intervention for the farmer. And EVM is very important in conditions like FMD, LSD conditions, in endemic situations where there is no need for the veterinarians go door to door. You advise through so many media now, and you can safeguard the interests of the farmer as well as the animal. That's the first step. So EVM provides the opportunity for further research, and we do not compromise on the fundamentals of these repeatability, reproducibility, and reliability in research. That is very much.
Thank you. Mr. Baiti, Daniela, any quick words that you want to add before I wrap up? Daniela, please, and then I will ask Mr. Baiti. Yes, Daniela.
Yeah, no, indeed, what you said makes a lot of sense. And indeed, as a FAO, we're trying to bridge together the need we have to have this information available, but also asking to research and academia to study more on these alternatives and coming up with science-based evidence of their effect. So that's extremely important. So having that kind of studies carried out, and from our side, trying to bridge out and to disseminate the information on what could be really be made of valuables in other countries outside India. As I was saying, we have been given the task from our governing bodies to study more in depth these measures, and that's what we are trying and doing. So we will get back to you to gather that information and try to have it, as I said, always backed up by science. So hopefully we'll get in contact in the future on that.
Thank you very much, Daniela. We look forward. Yes, Mr. Baiti. Very quick words. Yes.
Continue to my two colleagues who have already shared about this thing. We have seen a lot of positive results of EVM and also scale up, because Sabah Dairy being handling 4 million liters of milk and so many cattle and this thing. So we have seen good results. Of course, initial days were tough. As I said, and my colleague has already said, we have to bring the doctors in the mainstream to get convinced. In fact, first 2 years, even our own doctors, because fortunately in the Amul setup, we have very well placed healthcare system for animals. So we, with the allopathy, for many years we are treating the animals, and this is a switch from last 4 or 5 years where we wanted to switch, and because there is a reason to it, which we are talking today. AMR big challenge, not only for, well, it's a big challenge for the health, and not only from that, even the manufacturing in the dairy industry also facing this challenge if we continue in the same trend. So we have seen positive results in this aspect. Of course, it has to be supported by more research, but a lot of positive, like Mr. Murthy has already said, foot and mouth disease, no cure, but in 24 hours you made the animal eating. So there is a positive sign on this aspect. So yes, it has to be more science-based, more supporting data, which researcher can combine. We have a lot of information in Sabar Dairy, wherein we have very good results, and rather we can say 8 part. Usually we see the symptoms in the animals, and of course coming back to the normalcy. So that is what is happening. And India is land of Ayurveda. We know that Ayurveda has a lot of effectiveness. Only thing, it has to be supported by research, database, so that it can be a model, it can be replicated on all the places and can have an effective. We know the yoga, yoga.
Yeah. Mrs. Bharti, let's not go all that way. Yeah. I think we've discussed this and we've got a good consensus on this. Yeah. Let's not, we know all those other issues.
I see the involving the doctors, and winning the trust of the farmer with the effective results which they get, and then convince them and spread the message of this goodness which can happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Bharti. Very wise words. Amit, Rajeshwari, Deepak, any quick words from you before I wrap up and give a few concluding comments? Anything any one of you want to add? Amit? Amit, you're on mute, I think, or we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
I think it's very clear that yes, there's positive response, but it's also very clear that we have to be careful. That's the bottom line.
Okay, so let me take what Amit has said a little further as I wrap up. So what is our effort here? Our effort clearly as CSC is to try and see what are the alternatives, options, so that we can, within the food systems approach, and what Catherine said, what Alfonso said, what Daniela said, that's our approach. Our approach is not a single bullet approach. Our approach is a food systems approach in which we are really looking at the health of animals. We're looking at the biodiversity of animals. We're looking at the nutrition, not just of animals, but also of human beings. And we're looking at the livelihood of farmers. Within that, what are the options, alternatives to move ahead, which are good for the environment, which are good for farmers? Now, when we heard about this ethnomedicine idea, and if I remember right, it was about 2 years ago, Mr. Punyamurthy, Mr. Hari Kumar, and Mr. Bharti, you were at a webinar that we had organized with the dairy industry, trying to look at where can the dairy industry intervene in reducing its antibiotic load. We were, this idea of ethno-medicine at that time was just talked about. And I then asked my colleagues, Deepak, Rajeshwari, and Amit, that let's understand it in more detail. And for us, understanding is to get to understand the data that you have and to be able to understand whether that data shows us that there is a trend, that there is information that can show us that there is something working. And from the data that we have got from both Sabar Dairy as well as from NDTB, there is, and this is what Rajeshwari presented, and we have put it together in a detailed analysis, which will be available to all of you, is to show that there is clear evidence to show that there is a number of animals that have been that have used this treatment, that they have been followed through, monitored, and the efficacy has been evaluated. And it has been evaluated, and forgive me, Dr. Punyamurthy, but for a moment I will say not evaluated by Dr. Punyamurthy, who, like me, would be a champion for this idea, but evaluated by dairy industry itself. Now, that's to me what is very exciting. It's exciting that NDDB has done it. NDDB is, as most Indians know, and if the world doesn't know, I think, Mr. Hari Kumar, you really need to make me your champion. I am such an avid believer in the Indian model of dairy, which is NDDB is a massive organization, and it's a trustworthy, credible organization. It's not a run-of-the-mill, any organization which will say, oh yeah, does it work, does it not? When NDDB gives us data, and I know that they have protocols, they have systems in place to be able to monitor both the antibiotic residue in the milk, but also to be able to follow through with the animals, to be able to look at their milk federations, which will be able to give us data in terms of what is the efficacy of this method. And so when we are presenting it to you today, we are presenting it to you with some level of confidence. We are not presenting it to you saying that, yeah, this is a nice idea which needs further research. We're presenting it to you as something which a serious organization like NDDB, with its partner Sabar Dairy, which is part of the federation, which has very large numbers of stakeholders, milk producers, they are the ones who are saying to you, it is working. And we have data. And I think data is what needs to speak for itself. And that's why I think this solution should be something that we should talk about. We should celebrate. We need to do it within the food systems approach, within the approach of smallholder farmers, within the approach of livelihood benefits for individual farmers. What really gives me huge hope is when I looked at the data, Mr. Hari Kumar, and for me, the best information was how much it reduced the cost to the farmer. When we are looking at natural farming and organic farming initiatives in India as well, we are seeing the key driver for uptake by the farmer is the reduction in cost. Because all farmers are under huge pressure today to manage the cost of the final product to the cost of inputs that are there. And therefore, if they are finding, and if farmers are finding, and when my colleague Deepak went out, talked to farmers, I get confidence that the farmers are not, these are not farmers who will tell us, no, it's, there's no incentive for them to lie. They told us it's working. So I think the economic reasons, and I think one of the other reasons that, if I may be free to talk about, which I love, and I think it's a very interesting possibility, and Alfonso talked about it, but in a different way. So one of the big issues for us is the fact that our milk also, for us milk producers, is curd. We're a curd-loving country. And for us, yogurt, curd is as important as milk. And one of the evidence, and I would love that more corroborated, Mr. Hari Kumar, if you have more data on that, is the evidence that the use of antibiotics, because of course we know, as laypersons, we know what antibiotics does is to kill bacteria. And bacteria is what, gives us yogurt. And if there was a reduction in the yogurt formation because of the time when the animals were getting this, it's another driver. We're looking for reasons why farmers will take these up. These are not for you and me to preach to them. They are for them to practice, to learn, and to use, because it is their choice. Ultimately, it is their choice. And they will make very wise choices. I can speak, Catherine, and I'm sure you will say that about Dutch farmers as well. Farmers are very wise people. They know the land, they know their animals, and they will do what is best for them. So I think this is really where we are very excited at CSC to present this to you, because we see this as part of that larger effort to make sure that we can change the food systems approach rather than looking at anything from a single bullet point of view. So again, thank you everyone for joining us. It's been a wonderful webinar. I've had a number of questions, and I know my colleagues have been answering as well as they've come along. We will have material on our website. We've done an analysis of this using the data from Mr. Hari Kumar, Mr. Baiti, and Dr. Punamurthy, so that we can actually help to understand the changes that are happening and put it together. Of course, it's not the end, it is the beginning. And so we will look forward to more conversations on this and see how this can be scaled up further. But thank you very much for joining us today, and thank you for all this. Thank you for your work.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Goodbye and good luck.
Thank you. Goodbye. See you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
And we will stay in touch. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.